Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be watching a storm system that will be producing winter storm-like conditions across parts of the Ohio Valley and the Central Appalachian Mountains, and even for parts of the New England states could see winter storm-like conditions as well. We'll be going into detail of how much energy is in the atmosphere, where it could go, and how much snow you could expect as well. Before we get started with this video, if you do like weather-related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff all the time on here as well. And also stay tuned. We may have another update on this tomorrow as well. So stay tuned for that. Since we got that out of the way, let's get started with the watch warning map display. There's two different areas that we got to keep an eye on with the system here. One area will be across parts of the Lower Ohio Valley and parts of the Tennessee Valley into parts of the Central Appalachian Mountains as well. That's one area to watch. Second area to watch will be across parts of the New England states, mainly along the East Coast line there as well. Those are the two areas we're keeping an eye on. And you notice here on the watch warning map, currently we have a winter storm watch across parts of southern and eastern Kentucky. That includes some areas in northeastern Tennessee, southwestern Virginia, and most of the state of West Virginia as well. And even for the higher elevations in North Carolina, it's also a winter storm warning. The same system that we're going to be talking about is currently at eastern Colorado, which it's also bringing winter storm-like conditions across parts of southeastern Wyoming, southwestern Nebraska, and northeastern Colorado as well. It does lose some steam as it continues to move to the southeast. You do see here those winter storm warnings. Then you kind of transition to winter weather advisories, and then you kind of see a little bit of a blank there in southeastern Missouri. But you do notice here it does pick back up quite a bit as you get closer to the Tennessee Valley and the Ohio Valley region as well. So, and we also do have a couple of tiny winter storm watches. There's one county in far eastern Maine, and there is also a couple winter storm watches in effect for parts of eastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island as well. That could get expanded a little further to the west, but I'm not really expected to be seeing a very large winter storm warning or anything like that. It might just be a widespread winter weather advisory event. But keep in mind, even for a winter weather advisory event, you still could experience a decent amount of snow out of the system here. But let's first check out the models here. So far, the Harris Canadian, or as known as the RGEM, has been the most consistent model so far. And not only that, it's also been the most accurate model so far. Compared to surface observations earlier today, it's been pretty darn similar. So the Harris Canadians has been doing a really good job so far. So I think we're going to kind of lean towards the Harris Canadian. Not only it's been very consistent, it's also been very accurate as well. And this thing here may have a chance of nailing this event. It has a chance. I won't say it will, but it may have a chance to nail this event. So let's check out to see what it suggests. Since we got energy on shore, models are going to have a really good idea of the system here, but there's still a little bit of uncertainty to go along with as well. So let's check out the Harris Canadian. So across parts of the Central Plains and the Eastern Rockies, we'll see periods of light water. Some areas could experience heavy snow, backs off a little bit. The low pressure system then shifts into northeastern Texas. It's going to be a weaker low at that point. That's going to continue to move on to the northeast. And watch what happens here. So this is getting to Thursday morning. This is when your low pressure system starts to get its act together. It's a weaker low, but it does show a decent amount of snowfall occurring out there as well. Not only there's snow, but there's also some mixed precipitation as well. Sleet and freezing rain. Now the good news for right now, we're not expecting a whole lot of freezing rain, so we're actually not expecting an ice storm. We'll talk about those ice amounts in just a moment. But really, the biggest focus here will be further north here. It's got quite a bit of snow falling in Tennessee and Kentucky at that time. They'll be continuing to move on to the northeast. And it does back off just a tad bit. And then it starts to pick up speed a little bit. And then when it gets over to the Atlantic, it starts to rapidly intensify. And there is some snow on the backside here. And you do notice there's not a whole lot of snow going on the backside of it. Mostly light to moderate stuff back there as well. So kind of an interesting solution that the highest Canadian does show. But then again, it's been the most consistent solution as well. So we've seen something very similar to this on the last video as well. So let's talk about the energy here. So this is at 500 millibars vorticity, so this is where your energy really is. And as we continue on here, watch this piece of energy that's going on right here. So this is your storm that'll be moving to the southeast. But whenever it gets to the Ohio Valley region, you notice it starts to get its act together. You see all this scattered red here. This is where we could potentially see, maybe at times, some moderate to heavy snow. That's where we have a little bit of energy, and there is that potential we could see maybe a little bit of thunder snow. That's a low in chance, though, but there might be a little bit of thunder snow mixed in with that as well. And you do see with the system here, it does become a little bit more neutral trough here, but it's also a little bit flat at the same time as well. It's not very amped with the system here, but whenever it gets to the northeast, it does become a little bit more amped as well. But at the same time, it starts to move very quickly to the northeast. If we do trend to a more amped, or in other words, a stronger system, it could go a little bit slower as well, which could lead to higher snowfall totals. But if it's going to trend a little bit weaker, we'll see less snow, plus it'll be a little bit more progressive as well. So there is factors out there that could really change up the forecast, especially for the Northeast. I think we got pretty good confidence in the Lower Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley. It's just the Northeast. We're just not very locked in with it just yet. Let's check out the European model. This has not been a bad model either. You do see here quite a bit of snow falling, especially down to parts of Tennessee. I think this is a little too far to the southeast in my opinion here. We'll compare it to other models in a little bit. But you do see how it really starts to wrap up when it gets over to the Atlantic. Has some at times light to moderate snow on the backside of it as well, but it does look like some of your heaviest amounts might be more focused in parts of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Those areas could see snow in a little bit of a longer period of time than anywhere else in the Northeast as well. And if you do check out the energy up there, you do see here it's pretty similar to the highest Canadian with this here. Decent amount of energy going on across parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. But your main wave is a little further back to the west here at this point here. By Thursday night, still a little bit flat with the trough, but as it gets closer to the northeast, it becomes a little bit more negatively tilt, and it gets stronger at the same time as well. So then again, look at either way, still looking to be a pretty progressive system there as well. And then we'll check out the NAM, and this one here's been a little over the place with it. But you do see here when it gets to Kentucky, you do see that very similar solution here. There is that mix of sleet and freezing rain across parts of northern Mississippi, southern Tennessee, into northern Alabama. That could get into parts of Georgia as well, mainly maybe far northwestern Georgia. You do see that big round of some moderate, maybe at times heavy snowfall across parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. That moves up to West Virginia, even parts of Virginia as well. And then you can kind of see there how it becomes a little bit more progressive as well as it gets closer to the northeast. Plus, it is a little farther to the east as well with the low track. That also really depends as well. So there's still a lot of factors with this system here. So then again, still a lot of uncertainty with the system when it gets to the northeast. We may have a better idea on this tomorrow. And as we check out the NAM, you do well at vorticity anyway. You can see there's a little bit more amped with the system as well. It does become a little bit more amped a little bit earlier compared to some of the other models, and that could lead to some higher snowfall totals, especially further back to the southwest. But you do see there how because it does move a little bit faster as it gets to the northeast, so it'll be a pretty fast moving system. So you won't get a whole lot of snow out of the system here just because not because that's not very amped or strong. It's because the fact it's going to be moving very quickly as well, especially when it gets to the northeast. It won't be moving very fast in the lower Ohio Valley, but it does move a little bit faster when it gets to the northeast as well. All right, let's talk about snowfall amounts. Everybody's interested with the snowfall amounts, right? So anyway, Harris Canadian. It's been the most consistent model and still shows a very similar solution. A little bit backed off of some of the amounts, just a tad bit, but it still shows a very similar area, seeing some higher snowfall totals. And like I said earlier in the video, this has been the most consistent. It's also been the most accurate model so far. So there's a decent chance this might be right, at least be pretty close anyway. And you do see here, it's got some pretty good totals across parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, up into West Virginia here. It's certainly trending a little bit to the northwest as well. And as expected, some of your high snowfall totals looks to be in the higher elevations of West Virginia. Could potentially see double-digit snowfall totals up there as well. And you do notice here it does back off a little bit as you get into parts of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Jersey. Could be talking about widespread 2 to maybe as high as 5 inches of snow. It's still a decent amount of snow. We're not really complaining too much about that, if I were to be honest. Here in Kentucky, we don't see snow like this very often around here. But as you get up into parts of Massachusetts, the amounts do pick back up just a little bit as well. It's got a spot of 6 inches up there as well. Here's a European model. Now, I know this is low, but the other model we're looking at is what's known as a catch-area ratio. It automatically sees of how cold the air it is and how much moisture is up there. Higher the moisture, colder the air, higher the ratio is going to be. So this is a 10 to 1 ratio. In other words, 1 inch of rain can equal 10 inches of snow. And with the ratio where we're going to be seeing here, especially into parts of Kentucky, you're talking about 1 inch rain could lead to 15 inches of rain. Temperatures are going to be cold throughout the day, which, if I'm correct, the 10 to 1 ratio, I believe, is 32 degrees with the actual temperature. We're forecasting temperatures to be in the 20s. So you're talking about a 15 to 1 ratio here. So the amounts are going to be higher. So I would add probably 2 to 3 inches of snow, and this is probably what's going to be predicting. And if you do add it up, you could potentially see anywhere from 5 to maybe as high as 7 inches of snow from parts of West Virginia through southeastern Kentucky into Tennessee. Now, honestly, I think this is a little farther to the southeast. I think this may trend a little bit to the northwest here, just a little bit more. As you move to the northeast, though, them snow totals do back off, but they do pick back up again when you get into parts of the New England states as well. At that point, this is when the system becomes more amped up, gets a little bit stronger. You get a little bit more snow to work with as well. As you move in between the two, it's not really as ramped up or stronger, so you don't get to see as much snow than these other areas will. The difference between this other one further to the southwest in the Lower Ohio Valley region is that it'd be moving slower as well. Also, the ratios will be a little bit higher as well. So that's one thing to note as well. And it's when you get to the north, to the New England states, the system will be stronger by then, so it'll be able to bring in a little bit more snow up there as well. Here's the HER model. It's got the highest snowfall totals in West Virginia, which I would have to agree with. There may be that opportunity we could see close to double-digit snowfall totals. Now, that'd be mainly in the higher elevations. Lower elevations could see up to maybe 7 or 8 inches of snow in those lower elevations. But then again, that's the max. How low it could be, the minimum could be as low as 5 inches. So you're talking about 5 to 8 inches of lower elevations. Higher elevations could see closer to 10 inches of snow. And you do see a pretty good swath of 2 to 5 inches of snow across most of the state of Kentucky into a pretty good chunk of Tennessee as well. So a little bit, there's actually two different stripes here. You got one in the parts of southern into northeastern Tennessee, and there's another one in northwestern Tennessee into northeastern Kentucky. Well, that'll be interesting to watch and see what happens. That's where we could possibly see a heavier band snow to develop in one of those areas. You also do notice, though, as you get up into the New England states, there's actually an area of some higher snowfall totals. Southeastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, eastern Connecticut, it's got an area of 5 to 8 inches of snow in those areas as well, which is interesting as well. One thing I want to quickly note, check out what's going on off of Lake Michigan. They're going to experience quite a lake effect snow event. And those white colors indicate 40 inches of snow. I don't think we'll get 40 inches of snow, but there's going to be a lot of snow out off of Lake Michigan. That's something I want to mention very quickly there as well. You guys might be able to look up there while we look through some of the other models as well. So that's the HER model. This is the rapid refresh. You notice it is a little further to the northwest. It's kind of similar to the HER model, just higher with some of the snowfall totals. But then again, it's a little further to the northwest, especially across parts of northwestern Tennessee, Kentucky, into West Virginia. Some of those higher totals a little further to the northwest. It does have a little bullseye across parts of northern Delaware, southern New Jersey. That's another area we may have to focus on as well for another potential area that could see higher snowfall totals than some other people in the area. And also pick up some higher snowfall totals again up in the parts of eastern Connecticut, Rhode Island, southeastern Massachusetts. Really, we got highest confidence on these two here. This one here, we're a bit uncertain with, but the potential is there we could see slightly higher amounts in parts of southern New Jersey, parts of Delaware, maybe into parts of southeastern Pennsylvania and northeastern Maryland as well. Pretty interesting outcome from the rapid refresh. Higher AM is actually very similar to the rapid refresh. Pretty good amounts from northwestern Tennessee through central Kentucky into West Virginia. There's a little bullseye in parts of the Delaware, New Jersey, and southeast Pennsylvania region. And then you got another little stripe that even continues up into eastern Maine as well. Goes from central Connecticut through eastern Massachusetts. And again, that's another area we need to watch for the potential for higher snowfall totals as well. Then again, pretty similar to the rapid refresh. GFS, likely an outlier on this one here. Gotta say, number one, it's a little farther to the southeast. Number two, I think these snowfall totals further to the northeast are too low. It's being a little bit too progressive. When you have a very progressive system here, um, really the snowfall amounts will be a little bit too low. And also at the same time, it won't have a whole lot of time to really get a little bit stronger here. So that's why I'm saying here this is probably a little further to the southeast, because if you're going to have a weaker low, it's going to track a little further south. But if you have a stronger low, it's going to track a little further to the north. So then again, I think that GFS may be a little bit of an outlier on this one. Another thing we do have concern with is ice. Like I said earlier in the video, this is the National Service forecast. It may not seem much, but it will be enough to cause issues. If you've seen up in the Northeast earlier today, they've experienced some freezing drizzle, a little bit of freezing rain, and it was a big mess up there. There could be that very similar situation that could happen in northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, into parts of south central southern Tennessee as well. So even though this may not seem much, under a tenth of an inch of ice, it's still be enough to put a glaze of ice on the road. So it would be very slippery as well. So be careful if you could be driving in those areas as well. Here's some of the other model guidance with that, and this is the high-risk Canadian. This is likely way too high, but still shows the ice potential. Hermal, I think, is the most accurate here. It does show that very similar solution out there as well. Let's talk about that snowfall potential. This is from the National Service offices, and honestly, in my opinion, I think they are being a little bit too conservative about this here. I think the totals will be a little bit higher than what they're showing, but there's honestly nothing really wrong about being too conservative. Honestly, as a forecaster myself, I'd rather be underdone than overdone. You know what I mean? If we continue to move into the mid-Atlantic here, you do see here, oh, that's a newly updated outlook. Okay, perfect. So this is an update outlook here. So here you go. It's a good thing this is updated while the video's going. So you got a swath of 3 to 6 inches of snow across southeast Kentucky. Those are where some areas are under winter storm watch. I think some of the amounts are a little bit too low in central Tennessee. But some of your highest snowfall totals likely be in the higher elevations of West Virginia. Could be up to 8 inches of snow. But you do notice there is a little bullseye for parts of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. That's another area we may need to focus on for the potential for higher snowfall totals as well. And it does show slightly higher amounts in the parts of where some of the other models suggest they may bump it up to over 4 inches. But it's something to watch for now for those regions down there as well. And the last thing I want to check out is the Weather Prediction Center's winter storm impact map. And pay attention to what's going on over here. So really in the yellow and orange areas is the areas I would pay attention to for impacts. You do see here where the track of storm could go here, at least snow-wise. You got a really in the yellow colors, that's where we can see minor impacts. So you got most of Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Maryland, and moving up along the East Coast into far eastern Maine. And then in the orange colors, that's where we can see moderate impacts. So where we can see some slightly higher snowfall totals as well. So certainly a storm that could bring in some issues here. It'll be manageable snowfall. Keep in mind that this won't be very major or anything like that. Just a little bit of a nuisance to kind of put into different words here. It won't be quite a major event, but it'll be enough snow to cause some issues, especially for areas we'll refer to the southwest. In these regions right here, like Thursday evening, impacts will be pretty high. And then into Friday morning, you may have some higher impacts up along the East Coast line as well. So, then again, it's going to be a very interesting system to watch here, especially tomorrow as well. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button if you do like my channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, leave it in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys' questions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.